I'm Sophie Williams and I'm the author of The Glass Cliff. So before The Glass Cliff was a book, it was a TED Talk, and I want to tell you about why I decided to turn my TED Talk into my book. So I did my TED Talk in 2021. It was meant to be 2020, but COVID did kind of make things a bit of a mess that year. And so when I was asked to do my TED Talk, I was asked to speak about allyship. I had 2 previous books out which dealt a lot with race and with allyship and with that as a concept in a conversation. And that's what I built an Instagram following around. And so when TEDx London reached out to me, they said, we don't really have any talks about allyship, but people often come to us to ask about the topic. And so we'd love if you could be our allyship talk. And then we can direct anyone who asks us about it to you, and it's going to be great. And I said, yes, thank you so much. I would love to do a TED Talk. Unfortunately, allyship isn't the topic I want to talk about. And then I told them all about The Glass Cliff, something that I had come across by coincidence doing research for my second book, Millennial Black. And they listened and they were interested and they said, thank you so much, but we really do want that allyship talk. And the more we talked about it, the more it became clear that in their experience, the women who they'd had to speak didn't really speak about business. And in fact, they said, we don't think we've ever had a black woman do a talk about business. And I said, that's interesting, because you're about to. And so The Glass Cliff was born. But obviously, with a TED Talk, you have 12 minutes and no notes. So there is a kind of limit on what you can say. And I always felt that there was more to say about The Glass Cliff. My understanding of The Glass Cliff had always been quite academic, quite theoretical. I felt like I had stumbled across some research about this really interesting thing that no one had spoken about, no one was talking about, even though it seemed to impact so many women every single day. And as my TED Talk came out and it got attention, it gained traction, people started talking to me about it. They started messaging me about it. But it didn't really hit home until March of 2023, when I was invited to speak at WOW Festival at the South Bank Centre. And speaking at the South Bank Centre had always been a real ambition for me. So I said, yes, please, thank you. And they asked me to host a panel about The Glass Cliff. And I wasn't really sure what to expect. Again, it wasn't a topic that many people knew about. It wasn't really a phrase that had the understanding that something like the glass ceiling had. And so when they invited me to speak, I wasn't sure if it would be very successful. But it turned out there was a queue outside of the door. It was the most oversubscribed session of the day. And as I sat there with my panelists speaking about the phenomenon, hands in the audience started to go up. And I thought, wow, people are interested in this phenomenon. But I still hadn't really understood it. I thought people were interested in the same academic way that I had been. But in reality, every single one of those hands that went up was attached to a woman who was looking for advice. They were attached to a woman who was saying, I really thought I was good enough. I really thought I was ready. But something's happened. This job isn't working. I feel like I'm not working. And I finally have the words to put to it. I finally know the words, The Glass Cliff, and they can tell me what's happening to me. And I left that event and I said to my partner, this is a thing. This is a thing that people need. This is a thing that people need to know about. This is the thing that we need to give people the language for. And so that weekend, I wrote the proposal for what I called precarious at the time, but what is now The Glass Cliff. And I was so passionate about it that I actually wrote the entire book in 20 days. It had to come out. It was ready for the world to learn about The Glass Cliff. And so that's why I turned my TED Talk into a book. The Glass Cliff is out on the 7th of March. And if you're a woman who has struggled in their career, if you're a woman who feels like you've been put in an impossible to win scenario when you've stepped into a leadership role, I really hope that this will give you what you need to realise that the problem isn't you and to start to find some solutions.